What's up, everybody? Coach Tony from the Strength House, and today I'm going to talk about how to choose your weights for warm-up sets working up to whatever heavy sets you're going to do for the day during your strength training. Now, this is a question I get all the time. It's like, how do I pick my warm-up sets? This is pretty important because your warm-up sets do a couple of really important things. First of all, they get you ready to train hard for the day. Second, they help groove really good technique because if you're warming up properly and ramping up at the appropriate amount as far as weight and reps that you're doing, you're getting practice, so you're grooving that technique. So when you do get to your heavy set for the day, you're going to be dialed in and ready to move heavy weights with good form. So I have two examples up here. One where we're doing straight sets, and what that means is that we're working up to a weight and doing multiple sets of the same weight. And then I have another example, what we call a top set approach, where we're working up to one really heavy set for the day. And this is pretty common to see. We tend to use straight sets more with our novice lifters who aren't lifting as much and are newer to lifting in general. And we tend to use our top set approach with more of our advanced lifters. We kind of put all our eggs in that basket for the one heavy set of the day. But we will use both approaches with different experience levels depending on their proximity to if they're doing a powerlifting competition or if they're an athlete and more in-season, off-season. So this applies to everybody, but I'm going to speak more in the terms of straight sets being something that more a novice would do and top sets being something more an advanced lifter would do. So an example here for straight sets, let's say we're working up to 3 sets of 5 at 135 for the day. So we like all our lifters, regardless of experience level, to start with the empty bar. Sets of 8 to 10 with the empty bar just to get loose. This is as much a discipline thing as it is an actual physiological change thing, where we like our Strength House lifters to start with the bar. That's what we do. Nobody's too good, too strong to start with the empty bar. So 8 to 10 with the empty bar. Then next jump, small jump, 20-pound jump, 65 pounds for 5. Another 20-pound jump, 85 for 4, 105 for 3. And then as we start to work up, what we're trying to pay attention to is the first set that feels like kind of heavy, like you actually have to try pretty hard. So no matter what weight you have on the bar, we want you to try to move that bar quickly, but you'll start to know when you're approaching the point where you should start to really drop the number of reps per warm-up set. Once you feel like, man, if I didn't try to move that bar as fast as possible, it would have kind of slowed down a little bit. So an example here might be once this person gets to 105 for a set of 3, they're like, okay, I'm closing in. Now I'm really going to drop my number of reps per set, and I'm going to do my final warm-up set at 125 for a set of just 1. I'm a big fan of low rep warm-up sets, and I'd much rather see somebody repeat one of these warm-up sets rather than do a high rep warm-up set. For example, let's say somebody gets 105 for a set of 3. I'd rather see them do 2 sets of 3 at 105 than do a set of 6, for example. Those 2 sets of 3 are going to be less fatiguing, more first reps than a set of 6, which is going to give more fatigue and perhaps give us less gas in the tank to do these working sets. So my final warm-up, 125 for just a single. Then I'm making a 10% jump to my working weight, 135 for 3 sets of 5. I'm a big fan of the rule of the 10% jump to your working weight. You see that in a lot of great programs. 5-3-1 is an example, that 3-week wave that it follows, and those working sets are always 10% apart. That, relatively speaking, is really manageable for most lifters. If you're somebody who feels like they got to get a little bit closer to that working weight, maybe you could whittle it down as low as a 5% jump, but 10% seems to make the most sense for most lifters. So you can see if I had somebody who was trying to do 3x5 at 135, this is a very common warm-up scheme that I would use, with that final jump being about 10%. All right, let's go over to the top set approach. So this is an example of somebody working up to a top set of 3 at 315. All right, so they're lifting a little heavier, they're maybe a little bit more experienced. You can see the approach is not terribly different, but the jumps are just going to be bigger, relatively speaking. So still bar for 8 to 10 to get started, 135 for a set of 5. Then we're just going to kind of make quarter plate jumps a little bit. What that means is you put a 25 on, and then for the next set, you take the 25 off and put a 45 on. So 135 for 5, 185 for 4, 225 for 3. Now we're starting to get it to that point. Maybe that 225 is the first set where I feel like I actually got to move and put some oomph behind it. Otherwise, it might move slow. So then I drop to singles. I've gone from 50-pound jump, 40-pound jump, now to a 30-pound jump, 255 for a single. Not quite ready to jump right to 315 yet, so I'm gonna split the difference at 285 for a single, and then I'm gonna make that final 10% jump here, 315 for a top set of 3. So this is just an example kind of based on the weight that you're gonna use for the day. This works best. It's kind of easy to map these out if you know exactly what weight you're doing for the day. Even if you're going with an RPE-based approach and those numbers are a little bit more open-ended, you should have the self-awareness as a lifter to know like about what kind of weight you'd be able to use for an RPE assignment. This could just as easily say 3 sets of 5 at an 8 RPE instead of a specific weight of 135, but the approach should be the same. The number of reps per set should decrease. If you do a warm-up set, it doesn't feel great, you can repeat it as long as the number of reps is low enough. And I'm a really big advocate of making that 10% jump there to finish off with your final warm-up set. You don't want to cluster those final warm-up sets too close together because you're just going to wear yourself out. At some point, like if we went from, let's say, 305 to 315 for this lifter, the numbers are so close together, relatively speaking, that they might as well be the same weight. So I really encourage my lifters to get comfortable making those bigger jumps so you just have more gas in the tank to really get after those heavy sets for the day. All right, so those are just some ideas and ways that I like my lifters to warm up that have been really successful. I hope that helps you pick your warm-up weights as you get ready to train for the day.